right, to former media tycoon Lord Conrad Black on all of these developments here. But more to the point, Conrad, if you'll indulge me, these meetings going back and forth with Donald Trump and Republican leaders in the House and the Senate, they have to make nice, but I can't remember an effort on the part of a party to so publicly heal its wounds in one meeting after another. It's all out there in the open. What do you make of it?
Well, I think it's a positive sign for the system generally and for the Republicans. It shows that both principal factions, if we can call the anti-Trump people a faction, recognize that they really should make an effort to pull together and present the strongest alternative they can to the Democrats in the election across the board, and congressional and local as well as presidential election. And you know, as LBJ used to say, we should all hang together or we'll all hang separately. And the Democrats took a very long time coming to that conclusion in 1968. If you recall, it was only a few weeks before the election that a great many of the Eugene McCarthy people, including McCarthy himself, came on board with Humphrey. And in 1964, and that was, of course, an extremely close election between Hubert Humphrey and Richard Nixon.
And you could argue that if George Wallace were not in that election, Hubert Humphrey just might have won. But he
might have won. Yeah. He might have won. And you can actually give some of the credit for it, of all people, to Spiro Agnew. But in 1964, you know, the Republicans splintered very badly between the Goldwater and Rockefeller factions. They didn't really make a serious effort to put it together, and President Johnson won by 16 million votes. Now here you've got pretty serious divisions in both parties, but I think they'll patch it all together, and it'll be a close election in the end.
What, you know, Conrad, I always wonder with these things that people put on the semblance of being united, but they're not doing it, you know, rip-roaringly happily, right? And maybe that's just politics. And it's just my naive read into this that they are saying, and we've heard it from John Boehner, the former speaker, and others who are saying, yeah, we'll support Donald Trump. So there's not a great enthusiasm there. And to me, it harkens back to 1976 when the Reagan forces said, yeah, we'll support Gerald Ford. We'll not be nasty about it. But there was not great enthusiasm among certainly Ronald Reagan or his forces that election year. And that, too, ended up being a close election. And they were just not that into it. So how into it do they have to be? I mean, what if they, yeah, we'll accept Trump, but we're not really that keen on him? We might not even come out to vote.
Well, I think you've got two factors. It's up to Donald himself to be a magnetic and electrifying force to the people who might be just a broad electorate who might be minded to vote Republican. They have got to come in large majority to the conclusion that they want to give this guy a chance. He's something new. He's a breath of fresh air. He's not complicit in the failures of the past. Pretty much the message he gives.
Right.
But on the official side, we're talking about party grandees and elders and the so-called establishment and so forth, the other recent candidates for the nomination. I think the key is that the program looks like something they can all agree to. And I don't see why there's in George Wallace's old phrase, a cigarette paper's difference between Ryan's and Trump's view on economic growth. And economic growth is the key. They've got to produce a formula for economic growth that people can buy into. They've got to sing from the same song sheet. I don't think that's that difficult to do. And then Donald's got to bring out the voters in the election the way he has in the primaries. And he's certainly done it in the primaries.
Do you think now
that if you notice,
I just
was going to say, Neil, that in Indiana, he was almost as many votes as Clinton and Sanders combined.
Right.
And in Pennsylvania, the Republicans had 95% of the Democratic vote. These are unusually high totals that Donald is pulling.
We talk about comportment and how he styles himself going forward. A lot of people have presidential. I don't know what presidential means. We've had some presidents who were pretty raw, but that he has to stop the name calling. That's what I really think this is about. Kind of a lot of these guys are still smarting from some pretty you know, rough names thrown their way. Now, they responded in kind, a lot of them, but that takes a while to get over because that's a unique set of circumstances and a personality trait that just gnaws at them. What do you think?
Look, no one likes being insulted. I agree with that. I don't.
What do you mean by
frankly,
that? What do you mean by that? Go ahead.
I don't think it matters that much if, and I'm not singling anyone out in a negative way, but let's say Carly Fiorina. I don't think it matters too much if she personally is still irritated, and she has reason to be, at some of the things Donald Trump said about her. The key is to get the cadres of the Republican Party, the party volunteers and workers and general enthusiasts, get them pulling all in the same direction, and I think that will happen. Now, but stylistically, I think everyone has said, and even I, and whatever my 2 cents are worth, have said that he's got to shape it up a bit. But in fairness, I think he has. His foreign policy speech was very good and very well delivered, and the last few times I've seen him, I haven't followed it as closely as some of your people have, but on a primary night, he's referred very correctly to Senator Cruz and Governor Kasich. No cheap shots, no lie on Ted, none of that stuff. And you know, it's still in the minds of people. It's a long way to November, and I think political wounds heal extremely quickly where there's a shared interest, and particularly where actually winning the election and getting control of the greatest entity in the world, the U.S. government, is what's at stake.
You are an excellent guest. You know that? Conrad Black, thank you very much. Good seeing you again.
Thanks. Very nice speaking with you, Neil.
All right. A very good perspective on all of that.